All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're going to give everybody just a moment here to get in and get their sound turned on. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Hi, everybody. My name is Amber Featherstone. I'm the Assistant Dean of Enrollment here at Minerva University. And our session today is about majoring in social sciences at Minerva. And so this entire session will be primarily focused on what it looks like to be a social science major at Minerva and what you can do with that major after you graduate. I'm really excited because today I have with me the Dean of our faculty, Dean Dolly Davis. And Dean Davis, I'll let you say hi, introduce yourself, give us a little bit of information about your background.
Sure. Thanks, Amber. Hey, everybody. I am Dolly Davis. I'm Dean of Faculty here at Minerva. And fun fact, I'm also acting as the Social Sciences Department head right now for this year. And I was the first economics professor hired at Minerva. So I've been here a very long time, since the end of 2015. And so I've been in the College of Social Sciences this entire time. I've written a bunch of the classes, taught a bunch of them. So I'm super excited to talk to you guys today about Minerva, our model, and really just all of the incredible offerings in social sciences that we can provide you. So looking
Awesome.
forward to it.
Thanks, Dean Davis. All right, so let's get in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and we are going to start talking about social sciences at Minerva University. All right. So just to give a little bit of an overview really quickly about Minerva. We are considered to be a liberal arts university based in the US. And on the screen here, you will see our five primary majors and the concentrations that fall under them. And this is just to sort of give you a quick overview. Again, today we are going to focus on social sciences. As a plug, we are running an event every day this week to focus on the other majors at Minerva. So if you're interested in maybe double majoring or having a concentration in a different area, definitely check out our events website and look for those other events that are happening this week. Oh, and then also at Minerva, we do offer minors. So I just mentioned that you can double major, you can major in one area, you can minor in something else. And on the screen, you will see those. So under the social sciences major, you'll see three minors listed there. And we're going to go into more depth into those in just a few moments. But I also want to call your attention to our interdisciplinary minors. So everything at Minerva, the way that we study, it's all built to be very interdisciplinary. We want our students to have a broad understanding of a lot of different disciplines that they bring into the areas in which they are majoring. And so it was important to us to create some minors that could be chosen regardless of what your major is. So a great example is our sustainability minor. You can take that minor regardless of what your major is. So you could be an arts and humanities major with a minor in sustainability. And one of the reasons we did that is because we feel like the ideas behind these minors are important to students no matter what they major in, no matter what jobs they are going on to. So just wanted to call that to your attention. So at Minerva, again, a lot of what we do is very different than your traditional universities here in the United States in particular. So in the first year, our students all take the same courses. We call these the cornerstone courses. And it is regardless of what your major is going to be, everybody takes the same courses. These are broad, interdisciplinary courses that give our students access to a lot of different areas of focus, a lot of different information, and a lot of skills that, again, we think will be important to them no matter where they take their degree or their career long term. So in that first year, you take the cornerstone courses. There are four of them. They are 4 credits each, and you take 4 in the fall semester and then again 4 in the spring semester. And here at Minerva, students do not choose their major or declare a major until the second semester of that first year. So again, we're giving our students time to explore, to understand everything that's out there before they really dive into choosing where they want to focus their studies on for the rest of their time at Minerva. In addition to the cornerstone courses, you can see what makes up the rest of the degree here. So we have the integrated learning courses. So those are 4 credits and they're spread out in half credit courses. 8 times over your studies. We also have a capstone here at Minerva. So every student, in order to graduate, must complete a pretty intensive capstone project. And these can take a lot of different pathways in terms of what the capstone project looks like and what the student creates as a product at the end of that. And as we go through this session today, Dean Davis is going to highlight some of the capstone examples that have been done under social sciences. And then Minerva also has 50 credits of total general requirements. So that's where you're going to be bringing in the courses for your major, courses for your minor, if you choose that, or your other major, if you choose to double major. You're also going to bring in electives here as well. So there's a lot of opportunity within the degree program to, again, take from other colleges and sort of explore different areas that may be of importance to you in your studies. All right. I think I'm going to hand it over to you and let you start really diving into social sciences.
Sure thing. Um, Really quickly, I would just love to have anyone put in the chat, or all of you, if you're willing, what interests you about social sciences. We have different sort of tracks that you can specialize in under the social sciences major. One is more towards economics, one is more towards psychology, and one is more related to political science. And then we sort of have mixes of those three that I'm going to go over with that makes it very interdisciplinary. But I would love to just have you guys put in the chat what you're interested in. It's always fun to know, and then I can kind of draw some detailed information for you while I go through everything. So we've got a lot of psychology. Nice. That's a very popular one. I'm obviously biased towards economics, since that's what I teach here. Okay, all right, good. Agricultural econ, I love it. Excellent. We've got a good little mix here. Yeah, and then, these three work together very nicely, so it's really great to have this under the social sciences major. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. Okay, so I want to just go back to something Amber said about the first year curriculum. She said that you take all the same courses for your first 2 semesters. This is on purpose, that every single Minervan takes every single same course. Now, these courses are made up of um, sort of broad disciplines, meaning one is sort of more based on writing and reading, an English type of course. And then one is called complex systems, which is a way of sort of thinking and more social science based design thinking. How do systems work? How do they interact with each other? Another one called empirical analysis is sort of a more natural sciences type of course where you learn about logical reasoning. And then our last course is called formal analysis, where you actually learn how to code in Python. Every single student takes all 4 of these courses, and everyone is prepared by the end of their first year to really be able to declare whatever major that they feel most compelled to declare at Minerva. The one very, very special thing besides that sort of broad curriculum that we give to everybody is this idea of thinking and interacting with the topics. Okay, so let me explain that because it's kind of funny and it's super impactful and it's really, really special to Minerva. So if I'm going to have some of you guys come specialize in economics with me, it's really important that you have the skills to think like an economist. And what do I mean by that? I don't mean that I'm just going to teach you a supply and demand curve and you're going to memorize how to draw it. I mean, you're going to come to me and you're going to already know how to negotiate because you learned that in the complex systems course. You already are going to know how to argue effectively as if you were in a negotiation, as if you were a policymaker, and you would have learned that in the first year sort of multimodal communications course. All of that, I might teach you about a monopoly, a super boring subject if you take it sort of at a mainstream university. But here I'm going to ask you, what would you do if you were faced with not only drawing this monopoly curve, but you were in a negotiation about a organization that is taking monopoly profits and they're siphoning up off funds to another country, and those people are being affected negatively. Now your whole mindset is broadened, right? And this is the whole purpose of learning at Minerva. We have amazing outcomes because our students go into the workforce with this broad perspective, yet these durable and specific skills that are so needed in the workplace. So everyone gets placed in very top graduate programs, really really strong internships in the summer and they go on to amazing careers. So I just wanted to put that out there and just say it's a privilege for me to work here and teach in this way. Just going back to sciences major, so there's three core courses. So after your first year, you take every single if you declare social science as your major, you're going to take three courses. So for all of you that are kind of interested in all three, psychology, econ, poli sci, you take all three of those. The professors are very close here at Minerva, so we really talk to each other about our lesson plans and make sure not only are you not like learning the same thing over and over in multiple classes, but they're complementing each other and the classes that you're adding, your sort of learning. Your learning journey is added through the connections that you of the learning outcomes in the courses. So that's really nice. And then you can choose to specialize, right? So in terms of specializations, you can see that there are six different concentrations, excuse me, six concentrations made up of three courses each. And when I say specialize, it's these concentrations that you specialize in under the SS major. So if you are most interested in sort of psychology, neuroscience, cognitive thinking, why do we do the behaviors we do? The cognition, brain, and behavior concentration under the social sciences major is for you. Economics and society is going to be mainstream economics. It's going to be markets, econometrics, which is very quantitative applications, and then theory and tools. So you'll learn all of the big models that all economists need to know. And then the more straight political science concentration or track is politics, government, and society. And that one you're going to learn about not only just general political science theories, but a global lens brought into that because we are a global university and the ways different constitutions around the world are written and how that how that impacts societies, right? The nice thing about Minerva, again, is the next three are all combinations, right? So a lot of you said you love learning about economics and psychology. Absolutely. Behavioral economics is a huge, huge field. So you can take any of these three really, and you can get the political aspect. And if you ask me as an economist, you can't divorce economics from politics. So there's always going to be an interaction there. But the behavioral, the cognitive, that whole psychology behind it all is a really important factor that's just becoming very, very apparent in the field. And so if you look at these three, theory and analysis and social sciences, empirical approaches in designing societies, they all three take one class from each of the tracks, one econ, one psych, one poli sci, and they put them together in a certain way that adds to an outcome. And I'll go through those in future slides. So the next thing I want to do is just talk about classes outside of social sciences that you might take. And these are electives at Minerva. And there's a lot of room for electives here. There are amazing classes in history, in computers, in computational sciences, if you want to go into more quantitative roles, linear algebra, if you are more interested in going into possibly like a minor in something like chemistry, we have that. And they all are sort of couched in these critical thinking skills that we teach you in your first year. So you really have this broad application um, of learning and tying all of the courses together. So let's go to the next slide and I'll move on. Okay, so I talked to you a little bit about the courses in the second year that you would learn at or you would take as an SS major. So like I was saying, kind of more pure psychology course, modern economic thought is going to be where you're learning markets, financial crises, bubbles, but also what that means in a global context. How does that affect how our countries affecting each other with the choices that they're making economically? Same thing with the political science course. This is also going to be have a slight focus on corruption and what that means for the growth of that society. So those are the second year courses that every single social sciences major takes, and then you decide which concentration you want, and that's the next slide. Okay, so my psychology folks in the chat, this would be the straight psychology track that I was telling you about. So like I said, the first one, theories, is going to be about theories so you can learn everything that has been talked about in terms of really how our brains work, how we cognitively decide on things. And then the cognitive neuroscience class is getting a lot more into the anatomy of the brain. It's almost can be cross-listed as a natural sciences course. It gets really into that. What's the inner workings going on physiologically? And then for my people that are interested in behavioral economics, the personal and social motivation course is really interesting. It's where you actually analyze how people make decisions every single day. And because of all of our classes are active learning, they're flipped. I'll ask you a question in the chat, I'll ask you a question here, and we can talk. And it's just a safe space to just have a really immersive seminar experience. You could share something out that you did from pre-work, like, I actually thought I was going to do X, but instead I chose to do Y. And I'm reflecting on why I made that choice and what that means and what are the outcomes from that choice, right? And it really broadens your thinking about how we as humans work and what motivates us. So that's the kind of pure psychology track. The next one, I believe, is the pure economics track. Oh, sorry. Let me just give you a quick taste of what you would learn and what you would do if you were a psychology major. We have assignments. We don't have tests at Minerva. Everything we don't our pedagogy is that we don't rely on rote memorization to test you. We really want you to be immersed in your learning and have it be this very project-based and applied process where we can continue to give you feedback as professors, and you take that in and you enrich your application of the sort of prompt or learning outcome that you are assigned. So in assignments, in psychology track, we might have you do what I just kind of mentioned, which is follow your own health behaviors or your own mental health behaviors for a week and say, okay, I try by Friday, I want to have 2 books read and something else. And then calculate that, do a method, do a write up based on theory and see how you accomplish that, and then unpack the reasons why. And then you can share that in class with classmates and kind of work on that throughout the semester and kind of see what that means. These capstones, that's the next bullet. These are the senior year projects that every fourth year at Minerva does, and they basically are almost a mini master's thesis. They're incredibly impressive. Each student gets their own faculty advisor that works one-on-one with them on these projects. It will be related to your major, of course. So I managed a project, a student that was actually an economics and psychology double SS major. And so she did this incredible study where she actually produced a book that is for sale on Amazon now, where she really wanted to compare the outcomes between people that are educated on physical health, what you do about your physical health even when you just fall or something, and mental health, and how the literacy on both is so diversely promoted that physical health always takes precedence, especially like if you go into a doctor or if you are just at home needing some attention. So this makes for a very different outcome in terms of overall well-being in society. And so she put a book together on that. And then a lot of people go on to grad school. They want to be professors, clinical psychologists, or researchers in this field. Okay. And so this is one of the hybrid majors, right? So this is going to be a mix of 3 of the different classes. The personal social motivation class, that's the behavioral component. The development and economics class. This is my favorite class that I wrote here. It's all about what makes people have different outcomes in their economies. Why do some countries have greater access to healthcare? Why do some countries have a greater GDP per capita than others? What happened? What are the things that work to help a transition out of poverty? What are the things that are actually hindering it that we think were actually good policies, right? So these are societal impacts from these disciplines. And then the last one would also be constitutional law. What kind of laws are you ingraining in a society from the beginning of that time that really made it into the place that it is today and how it's functioning? So this is if you want a hybrid of those sort of learnings within your major. Okay, and an outcome for that, another these are some examples from some of my students in that global development economics class. We have students create an actual poster that they would present they can submit and present at a conference if it gets accepted, where they actually do a timeline and an analysis of a country that has gone from a certain level of economic wealth to a different level and what happened and what are the positive and negative effects of that. Who was hurt and who was helped, and what does that mean for the rest of society? In terms of this capstone last year thesis projects I told you about, a lot of students focus on sustainability. Amber, Dean Featherstone had talked to you about the minor there, which is a very popular minor It's very appealing to employers as well. And this person talked about the economy and actually the carbon footprint of our digital devices and what that means to go through so many phones, so many laptops, that kind of thing, which is less studied, but also very impactful in terms of the environment. So there's that student in particular is in grad school right now and wants to be a policy analyst. So is actually doing a degree in that. Then there's international development specialist, which is you could work at the World Bank, NGOs, think tanks, that kind of work, and urban planners, which are another lucrative career that a lot of our students are interested in. Okay, and then here's the kind of the straightforward economics track. So I kind of mentioned this before. Theory and tools is going to be sort of this medium to advanced level of both quantitative and qualitative modeling in economics. So you're going to learn things like international trade models, but also game theory and behavioral economics in there. Econometrics and economic systems is going to be very, very quantitative. It's going to be basically um, statistical analysis of economic and it could even be psychological economic problems. This is a really, really important class if you want to go into grad school in economics or any more quantitative fields where you want to be able to take a bunch of data and analyze it in a way that you can actually predict and analyze outcomes. And then global development and applied economics is the one I was just talking about, where we look at countries and their transition out of poverty and their differences in outcomes with relation to education, healthcare, technology, that kind of thing. Okay, assignments in that are going to be, growth models to analyze things like the Swedish government's response to COVID-19 in comparison to the US or another country's response that had different policy measures and seeing economically where that landed. Capstones would be a lot of, again, sustainability and economic development. This one in particular wrote about the textile industry in Kenya and why it should be growing, but it isn't, and how an idea for basically doubling down on the apparel industry, but in a sustainable way, could be lucrative for their economy based on a political plan of a 5-year growth. So it's kind of marrying all of the different aspects from these different concentration courses. For economists, you're going to get the think tank NGO researcher, and you can go the financial route, financial analyst, investment banker, policymaker, econometrician. There's a lot of jobs that want very involved the statistical work. So there's a lot of opportunities there. All right. And now empirical approaches to the social sciences. This is another one of those hybrid ones. But again, this is going to be more quantitative. So scientific approaches, empirical approaches. So you're going to use econometrics again, and also that cognitive neuroscience class I told you about. So that's the one where you're really uncovering the anatomy and the biology of what's happening in a brain. And then comparative politics and practice is the poli-sci course there, where you actually would probably use a statistical analysis as a political science major to look at the outcomes from different political systems. So this would be having a long timeline where you would say, this policy was entered here and these were the outcomes after that. And in this country, this policy was entered here and there are the outcomes. You can compare them. You can do statistical analysis and then a qualitative analysis to back up your results. So this is a really nice sort of hybrid concentration within the social sciences if you want to do that policy but quantitative work in the future. All right. And then some assignments from that, excuse me, were just looking into discriminatory practices and what that means. So we have these things called location-based assignments. Our students move to different countries every semester. Our students that happen to be in Argentina at this time in Buenos Aires were able to actually go and witness, I believe in this case, a political event where their indigenous communities were actually discussing how they had no platform for some of the outcomes that they were facing. And then they were able to apply the learning from on the ground at that event to just their readings about it in the class and really put together that nuanced perspective for their assignment. In terms of capstones, this can be a mix, right? Because we have that neuroscience class in there. So we've had students that have gone on to PhD programs in more natural sciences that looked at, how did even things like health and gut microbiome affect your cognitive thinking. So a lot of great outcomes there. Again, research, scientist, policymaker, econometrician, analyst. Those are the kind of jobs you would look for after. Great. So this is our poli sci track. I kind of went over these before. General practice of governance, different governing systems, comparing those two. You can even do that statistically. And then different constitutions, how they even get written. How's the process start? How are they structured? If you think deeply about that, imagine going home and writing a constitution right now for you and your friends or something like that. Like, how would you even think about that? It's actually really, really impactful to understand what you would even go into that and really kind of makes your negotiating and people skills grow as well, because you have to be able to do this together for an entire community. So that's that course. And then assignments would be we actually have a big number of Brazilian students. And so a lot of students like to write on Brazil if they have a country that they can choose to do an assignment. So this one I believe was a quantitative paper on universal healthcare in Brazil and how it was underfunded by the government and how that led to serious different unforeseen outcomes, right? So when you're looking into policymaking, it's really important that you can look back and say, okay, wait, we did this, we didn't expect it to affect this, but it did in a bad way. And now we have that variable, right? That we can look at before we go on to another policy, that kind of thing. So you're reflecting. Another capstone project from that particular track would be um, looking at the behavioral psychology into democratic theory and looking into why certain countries have made the choices they have based on their backgrounds in terms of policy. So when you're going full poli sci track, there's a lot of different types of jobs: diplomats, civil servants, policy analysts, social workers, lobbyists, journalists, and any kind of sort of analysts as well. Okay. So we have theory and analysis in social sciences as another one. These are all going to be, as the name says, theory based. So it's going to be really learning and absorbing all of the different theories that over time that have been put forth in these fields. So it's very interesting because, some of them are old and heavily criticized by this point, especially like in the economics course. And then there's some new ones that are really taking a lot of flight, and you can compare the different theories and kind of look at where you are now and decide, yeah, that seemed to work possibly in that time, and now that theory doesn't seem to work. Or you can look back and say, oh, that was the theory, people acted on it. That could be in terms of a political approach or something like that. It actually led to a bad outcome. So this is looking at the theoretical portion, which is very interesting. And then in terms of that, so an economic assignment, for example, in that theory course would be game theory analysis to look at different strategies that governments or companies might take um, faced with possibly competition rolling in or a new sort of, I don't know, a new governmental policy that maybe takes away funding for them or something like that. Capstones, there's been a lot of capstones on journalism, activism, social media, and how that impacts social movements. And I'm sure all of you are very familiar with that. Oh, I'm okay. There's some questions, and I want to make sure I get to those too. Same kind of careers: professor, consultants, researchers, policy analysts. All right. And then I've talked about the fourth year capstone project. That's the one I was saying, like, is a mini master's thesis. You work one on one with a professor. You have actually a full year before your senior year that you start just learning how to write a proper research paper, how to do proper research, how to present a structure for it. You actually write up a proposal that gets approved, and then you go into a whole year of working on this. It really, really, it's something I wish I had had my senior year, because until I did my master's, I didn't understand how to do something like this. And so it's really, really important. And I'm so glad that we do it here. And the capstone projects are absolutely incredible, definitely master's level. And a lot of students have published in journals from their capstone project. So it's a really important part of our program. Okay, and so I made it to the end. Good, I have time to take questions. And so, Amber, I don't know if you want to read them from the chat. I'm happy to also, if
Yeah.
you want to turn on your camera, I'd love to see you and just chat, whatever you want to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Team Davis. I know that was a lot to go through. So let's go back and see what sort of questions we have. Here's a great one to get us started. Can you double, can you have a double concentration in social sciences? Do people do that?
They Yes, you can. It's So what's more common is a double major, um, where you have like computational sciences and social sciences, and then you're kind of layering those two. But yeah, you can do a double concentration.
Okay. I get this question a lot. Do we have anything in criminology, or does that fit in anywhere within our social sciences curriculum?
We don't. There has been talk about adding something. One thing I will say, and I should have put this in that slide deck, is we are introducing a new set of courses that you all might be interested in. So most of our courses are 4 credits. These would be a 2 credit courses, so meet a little bit less often. But they're very, very specialized into topics like this. They're actually called special topics courses. So we have one running right now on the modern Middle East, and it's actually by a professor that spent a lot of time in the Middle East as a journalist before
Mm.
getting their PhD and coming to be a professor here on the political science track. So it's a lot of real world on the ground learning that from in that classes, and we want to introduce a lot more. We have another one going on in sustainability and policy pathways, where you actually learn how to
Oh,
write policy proposal um, for sort of global NGO type of work.
oh
So
wow.
there could be, if there are no there so the pre-law courses they're not officially titled pre-law. I'm seeing one right now, and that kind of leans into what I'm doing.
Hmm.
But between the new courses we're starting to offer, like those specialized ones, and these things we call tutorials, where students of up to 8 total get to together pick a topic. They pitch that to basically to me as the dean, and then we narrow down on how many students want each topic. So if it could be like a pre-law type of topic and enough students want that, we will find a professor. We have a couple of professors that are actually have JDs as well, that would work with each student on learning those skills. So
Oh, cool.
it's a pretty neat involved program.
Yeah. And kind of leaning into that. So I'm going to ask you a question. It's a pretty specific question, but I also would love for you just to talk about like how these sort of like niche interests are really tackled at Minerva as you guys, help guide students through their degree program. So this person said, if you're interested in using psychology and economics, especially for marketing, would it be
Yeah,
appropriate to double major in psychology and economics and social sciences, or to pull something in from the business side of things? And so again, that's a really unique thing
absolutely.
pathway.
That's a great question. I would recommend actually either double majoring. So I would do a business major with the marketing concentration along with the economics major and the economics concentration. That said, because you can take so many electives here and you can minor, I don't even know that you would need to, depending on exactly what you wanted to do with that, if you're really influenced on behavioral nudges kind of thing, then you might actually take one of the sort of mixed social science tracks that has more of the psychology economics in it with a marketing minor, a business minor, that type of thing. And we have academic advisors that are specific to each college that help you decide on this in your first year.
And we get a lot of that, right, Dean Davis? Like a lot of students that are interested in, I don't know, things that you wouldn't normally put together, like arts and humanities and computer sciences. And
Totally.
so, like, I feel like our curriculum is really built to help them sort of explore both of those interests and then sort of bring them back together in the capstone. Is
That's
that right?
exactly right, and it's intentional from that first day where we're teaching those learning outcomes in those 4 classes that everyone takes their first year. So that way you're learning something in like I said, like a linear algebra course, and you can actually remember something from your first year arts and humanities course, that I'm gonna do this table in a way that I learned in this class and bring in this way of presenting or something like that. So it's on purpose, all sort of an intentional, woven curriculum, I guess.
Right. All right. You've talked a little bit about things like the tutorials, but what other sort of electives are available? Is it just that they choose from different majors, or how does that work exactly?
Yeah, so outside of your major, you can choose any of almost any class. The only stipulation there is some have a prereq. So if you have not taken one of the computational sciences core courses, which are the ones you take
Mm,
right after your first year, and you want to take like data and like I don't know, like a really hardcore coding class, you wouldn't be able to just take that as an elective. You would need to go take the prereq for that and then take that. So
right.
there's a couple of instances like that, but if that's really what you're interested in is, you would wanna do that anyway. You'd wanna take the core sophomore level, course and then make room in your schedule to take that next one too about the coding.
Okay, great. Somebody asked if it's possible to study religion at Minerva. So they're interested in political science and religion. And I get these questions a
Yeah,
lot. Like, I don't think I've seen a religion course per se necessarily,
right.
but like, I feel like students can bring in those other interests. How they do that?
Definitely. So we don't explicitly have a religion course. However, between our history track and our poli sci track, and to some, yeah, mostly those two, we definitely bring in a component of that, and we're actually looking to bring in an even stronger component of it. We have a professor that started a couple years ago that happens to be a specialist and wants to add more, especially in light of sort of, these different critical thinking lenses that we want to place onto the analysis of the subject matter. So people that have taken the history classes and learned about the different religions and and the sort of the interactions and the way different people think and learn from them has been really, really well received. The students love it.
And in the capstone, can students pull in sort of these extra areas where maybe they haven't majored or minored at Minerva, but they're interested in sort of exploring it more?
Oh yeah. So while your capstone is based on, it has to be related to your major, obviously. We want you to bring, as long as it's defensible. It's not like I'm gonna, write about monopolies and talk about Mickey Mouse. I could probably make that work, but that would be a little bit of a stretch. I'm thinking right now about how I could make it work. But there's for Minerva, it's usually like it's actually quite easy to sort of blend that in because of these deep rooted skills we have that we teach the first year.
Great. This is an interesting one. How is it to move from one program to another? Mercy, you might need to give us a little bit more explanation on that. Do you mean like between the different majors, or if you're doing a double major, how it is to have both of those in your program? And Dean Davis, I don't know. I mean, now I'm curious because if that's the question Mercy's asking here, I mean, if you are majoring in two very separate colleges, how does that work?
I mean, that's totally fine. People do it all the time. It's really because our classes are set up pretty move it says to move from one major to another. Yeah.
Mm,
So if you are like I said, a business major and a social sciences major, it's your classes, you're gonna go into Forum, our virtual learning platform, and you're gonna have the same sim structure for the classes. So you know what you're gonna have to do. You're gonna do some pre-readings beforehand, maybe some pre-work. You're gonna go into the class. Your professor's gonna talk to you guys. You're gonna do a poll. Um, you're gonna take a class that morning in economics and maybe that night in business. And they're never gonna overlap in terms of you're not gonna have an assignment across both or anything like that. But they're gonna be complementary in nature, and you're gonna learn from both, and all of the professors are so close to each other and so student-centric that if you ever want to just meet with both of us, because 'cause you're like, "I'm learning this here, and I have questions," we're gonna get in a call with you and talk about it. We love that.
awesome. I saw something else that piqued my interest and now I can't remember. Oh, do students ever change their decision on their major? So I know most college students do change their mind on what they want to major in, right? But at Minerva, because we don't make you pick when you're coming in and you kind of have that first year of discovery before you really nail down what you want to focus on. What happens if I'm in, let's say, the second semester of my second year and I decide econ is not the path
Right.
forward for me?
Yeah, it happens a lot, of course. I mean, we never sure. So really what matters is that you get the right amount of credits for graduation in your 4 years or however long it may take. But it's set up to get 120 credits in 4 years. And so basically, if you have done 2 full years towards an econ major and you're like, "I forget it, I wanna do history," th it's gonna be able to work out. What we might have to do is, there's different kinds of credits that are helpful in cases where a student might get pretty far along in their 4 years and wanna switch something, and that can be like a subject. It's called an IL 199, but it's basically an internship. It's experience that by default we want you to get credit for because you've on the ground actually did immersive project-based work. And as long as that work is related to your current major, then you can write up a paper about that and receive that credit. So there's a lot of flexibility that we try to give. There's also things called special concentrations, which they're not that common, but we definitely have those as an option where the students can propose. I actually did all of this work in econ. Now I like history. What if I did, and I only need one more class left in econ, but two more in history? What if I had this major called economics of history or something? You can propose that. We would have to have a discussion as like the department heads and everything like that. But we have done that too, if when students change their mind pretty late in the game.
And just to confirm, because I think I've heard about that before, so it's basically proposing a major that doesn't currently exist in
That's
our
right.
catalog, right?
That's right.
But could really meet the needs of that student and where they're
Correct.
wanting to go.
Exactly.
That's great.
And you can make up the title too. I mean, you have to work with the professors on it, but,
Right.
yeah, it's kind of fun.
Awesome. All right. I know we've had some other general questions in the chat, and I see my colleague Aliona has been answering those. Thank you, Aliona. Are there any other questions specifically about social sciences that we haven't gotten to yet today? I know we went over a lot of information.
There is one here about languages. We don't have courses, but it is something that we talk about all the time. We really want to figure out how we can do some sort of immersive language learning. Perhaps when we, you know, maybe when we start getting ready for the Tokyo rotation, we
Hmm.
can, prepare some summer classes. We don't know. It's still very, like, early stages, but we definitely have that as a main thing that we're thinking about.
Yeah, and we've heard too that, a lot of students will sort of choose their own adventure when it comes to learning the languages, especially of the rotation cities,
Mhm.
right? Some of them take classes in the cities or they sort of study ahead of time before they go. Does that sound pretty accurate?
Totally, and then a lot of people just they take a little in-person class once a week once they're in the city, which is and find a coffee partner to talk to,
Right,
which is so helpful.
right. Um,
Oh,
Here's a great
Mercy?
question. Oh yeah, you see it. So do
Absolutely
we
not. We do not wanna be Western-centric here, even though it is technically an American university. We try very hard to not base it on any of the classes on US. US only, politics, economics, any of the things.
Great. All right. Any other questions you guys are dying to know?
Mhm.
Love seeing faces on the cameras and great questions in the chat so far. All right. Well, I'm
Alright.
going to put in our email here. So this is for my team, for our outreach and enrollment team here. If you think of more questions, please feel free to send them our way. We're happy to help. I know there were some other general questions in the chat. Don't forget to reach out to us at any point if you need anything. Again, as a reminder, we have 4 more academic sessions happening this week. So come back tomorrow and learn more about some of our other majors and maybe decide that you want to be a double major at Minerva. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you, Dean Davis, for going in depth with us on social
Of course.
sciences. We really appreciate it. And again, as a reminder, applications are now open at Minerva University to enter our class next fall of 2025. So if you haven't started your application yet, or if you're in the middle of it, again, use our email, reach out to us directly. We're happy to help. All right. And
Thanks, everyone.
thanks, everybody.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.